These are the unexpected best irons of the year, and they come from PXG. There are only a few negatives, and there's something which has just lifted them to a whole new level. And to test them, I took a flight over to Spain and Finca Cortesin, the host of the 2023 Solheim Cup. Right, the first test of these irons. I've got about one kind of 80, slightly up the hill, wind hurting just off the right. It's gonna hit 6. Just gonna bleed it back into the breeze. These just look at that. That must be the best PXG iron they've made. Has to be.
Best looking for sure.
Has to be. But is it the best performing? Let's see. Cheers. Honestly, they're so good. They are so good. Obviously, there are a lot of positives about these irons, but of course, what really matters is what you think. So get down into those comments and let me know what you think are the best looking irons in golf. So, the PXG 0317T. Bit of a mouthful. The main reason that these irons are a surprise for me is that until this year, I felt like many have felt about PXG. They're overhyped, overpriced metal, masquerading as serious golf clubs. But the 0311 range, now these have really won me round. You know, I would put PXG in that mix in every single category within the golf bag to contend with the more established, bigger manufacturers now. So I really like these irons. Well, look at them. But the first potential issue with these irons is that they're a hollow-headed design. So one of the weaknesses with PXG irons, which we'll get into, and hopefully it doesn't happen with these, is that they just tend to go so far with no spin. Hopefully I can control this a little bit more, just a little chippy one. I'm just gonna land it just on the front edge. Just gonna let it release out there. Feeling inspired out here.
Oh, golf swing.
Really solid.
That is a beautiful swing, Pete.
Thank you.
What was that, a little wedge?
Just a tiny one, yeah.
That didn't jump, that was good.
Hey, no, it sounded great.
Much better.
They just feel like a proper muscle back, like when striking for the middle. It feels so good, so solid. So the heads are filled with something called S-core, which I don't know what it means, but apparently it helps the face flex less at impact. And obviously with a hollow-headed iron, if the face does flex, that's where you're gonna get that real burst of speed from. So it's kind of hollow-headed and then filled. Like, why did just it make a more solid-headed iron? I don't know, but it does seem to be working. So I'm gonna take a wild thrusting stab and say, PXG know more about making golf clubs than I do. So straight away on the course, one of the things that I love about these irons is just the look. Now, this is a hollow-headed construction, which normally, when that happens, it's pretty big, it's pretty bulbous. You can kind of tell what kind of iron it is. With this, it just looks like a forged blade, like a muscle back. That was a terrible strike, but it took off all right. So one of the reasons you'd be picking this club is not so much when you strike it out the middle, because most clubs feel good when you strike it out the middle. It's more those slightly off-center hits with this size of head. You want that little bit more forgiveness with a hollow-headed construction, and apparently that's what this gives. Now, normally a hollow-headed construction combined with a low loft will produce high launching, low spinning, absolute bombs of iron shots. Now, that's good for high handicappers who want that little bit more distance, want help getting the ball in the air. But if you're a better player, you want a little bit more control over trajectory and spin. But PXG say with these irons, because of what they filled the heads with, it's a hollow-headed construction. You get the forgiveness, you get the speed, but you also get more spin. You also have consistent gapping. And I thought, well, why not test them out against some of the most consistent, accurate, and beautiful irons that I know about. So how's this as a comparison and a test? The PXGs versus the Mizuno MP20 blade. Now these are both 8 irons because these are the most similar in loft that I could find. The PXG is 1 degree stronger, but the MP20, this is a solid construction, so this is pure blade, pure metal. And what we're looking for in this comparison is to see whether the PXG is just ridiculously low spinning, high launching, I've no control over it, or if it can compare with that high level of precision that the Mizuno is famous for. These are my old irons as well. I know exactly how they work and they're absolutely fantastic. So, you know, it's going to be an interesting comparison. Let's have a look through the data of these two irons. Now, I have to say that the more and more that I've hit these PXGs, the more actually impressive that they become. Now, one of the factors that we need to look at here, first of all, is spin rates. Normally, with these PXG clubs, and I was using a Pro V1 ball here for the testing, by the way, we'd expect that the spin rate is going to be lower, okay? However, on this particular test, the spin rates between the PXG and between the Mizuno were practically identical. Consistency, as far as carry distance, was ridiculous. With the PXG, I was managing to hit 165 yards pretty much every single time. Mizuno was very good, a slight variation. The feel between the two, this is the one thing which I can't measure with data. This is something that I just have to give my opinion about. The PXG feel was fantastic. It wasn't quite as soft and as beautiful and as spongy as sometimes that the Mizuno could feel, but I've got to be honest, it wasn't a million miles away. It really wasn't. I think whatever that they've done really well within this club, the PXG engineers. Honestly, it's just a really good iron. The PXG engineers were seemingly given carte blanche on everything, including the checkbook, because these irons have a lot of different features. They're triple forged, they're externally milled, finished with a robotic polishing process, which apparently is unique to PXG. I'll take their word for it. And this tungsten weight in the back of the head really focuses mass behind the hitting area. And this can actually be changed in the fitting process as well to give a different feel. If you're liking the look of these irons, by the way, and these review videos, make sure that you absolutely smash that like button. Let's try and get this to, Jacob, pick a number, 1 to 10. 5,000 likes after the first day.
Oh. Even when I try and miss a fairway, I can't.
Let me try that.
Even when I try. I want your honest opinion on it, Fred, okay? Honest opinion.
Looks good, man. It's not too much offset. The face is like somewhere in the middle of small and big, so medium sized. But you're right, for being like a hollow design, it looks more like a forged blade.
Yeah,
right?
exactly, right?
So the tree, yeah? I bet it hit a solid now. Is that the tree, Pete? So good. Okay, I've hit some PXG irons, and if anything, it comes out like a missile, most of them.
Exactly, yeah.
But this feels like more solid. It doesn't look like it's just coming out with no spin and just goes 400 yards.
So it's not just me.
No, I think you might be onto something here. Yeah, that felt good, really good.
Reporting live from Solheim Cup.
Now, there are a couple of things about this iron that you should be aware of in the negative column. Now, the finish that PXG have put on these irons, it is very cool, and when you take them out of the box, there's a real striking appearance to them. However, I've been using these on and off for the last month. I've transported them around quite a bit, and it is noticeable how quickly that the club heads are marking up. Little dinks and little kind of smears and smudges on there that I can't seem to get out, especially of the back of the club. So if you're looking for an iron which is going to stay absolutely pristine for as long as you can, kind of like a ping iron, for example, that you could, you know, chuck in an industrial cement mixer and it'll come out the other side still looking great, these might not be the irons for you because they do mark up pretty quickly. So these irons cost $169 each. So for a set from 4 to pitching wedge, they're going to be setting you back just under $1,200 in English pounds, that is. Now that's not cheap, but it actually makes them slightly cheaper than the equivalent clubs out there. And this seems to be like a new strategy that PXG are employing. If you think about when they first came out, about how ridiculously expensive the clubs were, Now they've almost gone the other way. They've dropped their prices right down, and now they're just underneath a lot of the main manufacturers. If this is something that's going to work, if they're going to sell more clubs like that, time will tell. So honestly, I'm going to be keeping these irons around. I'm not saying that they're going to be going in my bag. I have grand plans for that moving forwards, but I might keep them around to make like a secondary bag, a travel bag. My only concerns with these irons are a little bit esoteric. You know, it's that perception that people have of PXG irons, about them being gimmicky, about them not really being worth the money. But honestly, I think these are fantastic. And that very rarely happens. I always find that there's something that I don't like about them. You know, we spoke about how they are marking up a little bit easily, but apart from that, I think they're great. Thank you to Finca Cortesin for having us over as well. Playing on that course just after the Solheim Cup was absolutely fantastic. Enjoyed every second of it. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure you subscribe to the channel and continue to watch these wonderful videos. They may give you a little bit more insight if you're thinking of buying some new irons.